Most deals don't fail because of the market. They fail because people fail to understand the land
Yep.
and what it'll allow them to do.
I always tell people there's a million and one ways to do real estate, and every single one of them works. You just got to find that niche for you.
And I've seen people come into the program as a school teacher, or they were an attorney, or they were, working in tech. People love real estate. People love real estate, and they want to touch it, and it's something tangible you can work in.
Oh my gosh, so glad to have you here. I wanted you to be on my podcast because you have a very unique niche. And I wanted you to, I want to learn. I want to learn. I know people want to learn. So tell me, tell everyone, I know who you are, tell everyone else, who's Jeff McCann? Where are you located? What's your niche in the industry? How long have you been in the industry?
Yeah, no, thank you. So I say I'm a third generation dirt contractor. My grandfather started with two horses and a flatbed wagon, and we've been hauling dirt around the Kent Valley and the Puget Sound region since the 1940s.
Wow.
My dad and I actually pivoted out of the kind of the heavy civil construction side into land development in the early to mid 90s. And then we did land development for a number of years and purchased over 1,000 acres of land for ourselves. So we did that. And then he saw the downturn coming, decided that we should sell our properties before. And so we were lucky to get out, and he retired. So rather than becoming unemployed, I became a land use consultant. So
Awesome.
I've got a combination. I'm a broker, been a broker for 30 years. I'm a land use consultant, and then I teach at the University of Washington.
So, so tell me more about like land use consultant. What does that mean for a brand new agent who's getting into this industry? I always tell people there's a million and one ways to do real estate, and every single one of them works. You just got to find that niche for you. So, what is a land use consultant? Like, what do you actually do?
Sure. And I tell people, you get hurt in the dirt, right? You don't know what's below there. And so what I'm trying to do is help people understand, what you can do with property. I want to be the owner's advocate to figure out, people say highest and best use, but highest use may not be best use. So what can I do with the property? And for brokers, before you go buy a property and spend time on it, is this a good property? Is there a fatal flaw that you should be able to see, or someone else can help you to see, that saves your client and yourself time, effort, and energy?
I love that. So do you like so when you work with your clients, are you helping them from the very beginning of like do you help them find the land? Do you help them like what is your process?
Sure. Some people find me, they don't even know what a land use consultant is. A
Right.
lot of times they'll call the county or
Yeah.
the city and they'll say, yeah, can I do this on my property? And they say, hire a land use consultant. Then they go Google and I happen to pop up there.
Okay.
But as a broker, I will kind of help people early on in trying to ferret out a lot of the properties that don't work. A lot of brokers get property under contract with a client, then they come to me because they have a feasibility, and then they say, oh my God, this is what we want to do on the property. I was told we couldn't do it. Is that true? Or there's something with the zoning, or there's some utility issue. And so what do we do? We have only a week left. Do I have time to figure out it? How much is feasibility? How long does it take? How much does it cost? All those questions that would have been good to know maybe before or at the time you made the offer.
Yeah.
But now that the feasibility is coming to the end, you got to answer them really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I'm just noticing this about you. This is probably nothing to do with what you're talking about, but you have very high energy, which I love. I'm a very high energy person too, and so high energy likes high energy. But like, I don't know that I would normally think of someone as a land use consultant with very high energy. So
Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's the background, a mix of my mom was a school teacher, my dad was a dirt contractor. So
yeah, yeah.
luckily, I can project that I'll be in an auditorium teaching. And I always tell my students, use your outside voice, because I will. I mean, I will try and project to the back row of an auditorium. And I've been teaching where people outside the classroom will come close my classroom door because my voice is projecting outside. But
Uh,
no one falls asleep in my class.
I'll tell you what, I don't have that problem either. I'm the same way. Like when I, before I got into real estate, I was a leader and I would have to speak in front of my team of 200 people. And so, you put a room of 200 people, like you have to be loud and they would never give me a microphone. I would never need a microphone because they're like, "I can hear you in the back." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." The only problem though with that is sometimes my voice is like, "Calm down, calm down."
I'm with you. I teach generally 2 classes a quarter, and I have
Uh,
a 2-hour class. I get about a half an hour break, and I teach for another 90 minutes, and luckily, I have a day off between classes because same thing, my voice
yeah,
can go by the end. Sometimes the students might enjoy that, like, "Just tone it down a little, Jeff."
yeah. They're kind of like, "Finally." I'm kidding. So talk to me a little bit more about the teaching side because that's something you seem like you're really passionate about. So what are you teaching?
So yeah, so one, I got my master's in construction management, and then I kept hearing about this master's program in real estate at the University of Washington. But I was busy working professional, had kids, didn't have time to do it. So I actually went back and at, late 40s, got another master's in real estate at the UW. And so they asked me to come back and teach, and which I'd never had any background in teaching or thought of. But so I teach 5 different classes, a couple for undergraduates, a couple for graduate students, basically centered around real estate development, real estate transaction process, real estate economics, real estate market analysis. So,
Mm,
and I've taught like public-private partnership and some other classes. So the program, I said to plug it, anyone thinking, one, you could get an undergraduate degree. So young professionals thinking, I want to get into real estate, but maybe not want to be a real estate broker. There's a whole degree you can get. For professionals, again, I went back at 50 and got my master's in real estate. And so it's really helped me, even in the areas like I know real estate, I know development, but real estate has so many silos. Like I didn't deal with industrial or retail properties. I didn't deal with asset management, data centers. So the program actually allowed me to learn a lot more. Even if I don't touch it rarely, I now understand the language and I understand different properties and be able to say, I don't know what I don't know. Here's someone that can help you with that.
fascinating. I never thought about that because you're right. I mean, like I said, a million and one ways to do real estate. Like there's really that's actually part of the reason I got into the industry is because of course, I think you and I both have that similar background. Like I grew up and I'm second generation, well, I guess third generation real estate. Like my no, not third, because it was my aunt who got my mom into the business, and then my mom's been in the business so my whole life. So anyway, but I think that's one thing we had in common. But that's why I say when it's like a million and one different ways to do real estate, like you don't even think about what you just said, asset management, even, land use consultant, development, all that. There's just so many different ways. It's really cool. Yeah. And I never thought about like a master's in real estate. So would you say that that's for someone who is like a residential agent who just wants to get more education, but doesn't necessarily want coaching or doesn't want like a skill set that could be a good alternative for them.
I mean, it could be good for anyone. If you just want to sell residential properties, I mean, there's probably enough continuing education you can take outside of spending the amount of money it takes and the time
Right.
commitment it takes to get a master's. But if you say, I want to learn how to do my own deals, right? I want to go,
Mhm.
and it's not about fix and flip. I mean, you could do it, but it's more about, how can I, strategize, plan for a property, take a property, value add, subdivide the property, market it to the right people, do an apartment, project or a bigger scale development. So it's got a lot of different avenues, and people generally go, maybe they want to learn the development route is one thing, or they want to dial in on like financing. Some of these deals are very big deals to do with money wise. And if you'd asked me before I started the program, like, how are you at Excel and Performa? I'd be like, I'm a B, on grading myself. Then I took this Performa class by this, person who used to work on Wall Street, and help value professional sports teams when he was there. Like Excel does so many things I never knew. The formulas I was working with were not numbers; they were all sigma, delta, and if-then statements. So I learned on the financial side how to strengthen my own ability to evaluate deals. And then third is a lot of people go into asset management. You look at, I placed students that have been in my class have gone to work for Microsoft and Amazon and Apple because they own a lot of real estate and they have to manage it. So a lot of students will never touch that sales side, but they will learn, how to do something else. And I've seen people come into the program as a school teacher or, they were an attorney or they were, working in tech. they want to learn. People love real estate. People love real
Yeah.
estate, and they want to touch it, and it's something tangible you can work in. So I see people from all different industries come over, whether to take a formal degree or just take other classes that I've taught, or yeah, lunch and learns, and continuing education classes.
Yeah, I think, like, you just nailed it when you said people like real estate because it's tangible. Because it's tangible. I had another guest on my show who was doing the same. He said the same thing. He's like, the best thing about that he loves about real estate. He's super new, but he was like, the best thing I love about it is it's tangible. Like, it's legitimately, you can see real estate improving or, not improving, like decreasing in value or increasing in value based off of the condition of the home. It's like you can actually literally see the asset, becoming more valuable or less valuable. I just think that's really cool. Um, so what are some of the things that you talk about when you said you teach more like market analysis? Talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. I mean, if we all had all the data and information, it'd make it easy to do. If we could subscribe to, different things like CoStar, but a lot of people can't afford that. So I'll teach people even how to go to the census and go download census
Cool.
data and on the Sentinel census and population growth, household growth, how to organically go look and build this. If I'm going to go, maybe I don't want to develop in this Puget Sound region. I want to go because the market's too hot here. Where is a good area? Where is job growth? Where is income going up? So to be able to go and analyze go get information, know where to get it, know how to kind of put it down on paper, how to analyze it, and then to think logically, to have kind of a step process. Hopefully, they leave with being able to figure out, okay, I have all this information. How do I do it? Most deals don't fail because of the market. They fail because people fail to understand the land
Yep.
and what it'll allow them to do. That the zoning doesn't work. People all the time like, oh, I got this rural piece of property. I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I say, let's start with zoning. Right?
Mhm.
Does the zoning allow you to do that? And if it doesn't, we're fighting an uphill battle right away. And if you don't own it, maybe you don't want to, or maybe that market just isn't ready for the product you want. So
Right.
knowing that up front and trying to study it and understand it. So understanding your markets is a big one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you're saying this, my mind is going to thinking about just having like what I do is I teach people essentially how to have better conversations. Like, that's if you're going to sum up everything I teach, it's how to have better conversations and level set expectations, right? And what you talked about just now was a lot of that. It's like level set. Like, look, if you want to try to do this with a property, but that doesn't even allow zoning, we have a big project ahead of us. But maybe it can happen. It just might take a lot of money and a lot of time. And so I think that's kind of what I was taking from that. It's about this is how you do it, but this is how you're going to use the information that you're going to get.
Yeah. And so you get all the information. So I try to create a way for people to go through it. And I love that. So I created this word ZATTSUM. Yeah,
That's
eight things everyone needs to know about land. And so each letter,
okay.
ZATTSSUM, each
Okay.
stands for something. So zoning, access, title report, topography, soils, sensitive areas, utilities, market study. Each one of those is a fatal flaw I've seen in property. People have gone forward and bought property, or brokers have helped their clients buy property that had a fatal flaw in one of those. The zoning didn't work. You didn't have it wasn't a permitted use, and you're going to have to rezone it, which was never going to happen. It fails to have adequate access to the property that people, I mean, maybe there's an easement there but you can't expand the easement if you're going to subdivide the property. It's not wide enough to get a fire truck down or more vehicles down. Maybe there's frontage improvements you have to do to improve the property. The title report. There's title restrictions all over property,
Yeah.
right? That don't, even for simple accessory dwelling units, that they
Yeah.
don't allow an accessory dwelling unit on the property. So people look at these middle housing bills out there with ADUs. There's just certain properties not going to work at least this point in time.
Mhm.
We have a lot of topography around the region. So, if you're building in a backyard again for middle housing, if the topography goes down the hill, that how am I going to get there, right,
Yeah.
in a narrow side yard? Soils being a dirt contractor, I joke. Um, if you had a hole in your backyard, my family probably filled it in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s with fill when you could do that. I mean, things that looks level in your backyard, but maybe there's 10 feet of uncompacted fill back there, or there's an oil tank under the property. And we have all kinds of critical areas: wetlands, streams, landslide hazards, erosion hazards, pocket gophers, right? That could be, most people, you get to like Thurston County and the pocket gopher is a big one.
Yeah.
Utilities are the water and sewer and storm, or if you're in the rural area, can it perk and the well, are all the utilities there? And then finally, a market study. Even if I can get through all those items, if it doesn't pencil, it's not worth doing. If I got to spend more money than it takes to develop it, takes all the fun out of it. And unfortunately, I see a lot of brokers not understand many of those elements. People buy property, they figure out that, hey, something's not working a year or two later. I've got one down the street. Someone's, $500,000 in acquisition, another $250,000 into studies. And they're trying to tell me, hey, I found you. I got all this information. I spent all this money. What do I do? I looked at it in half an hour. I said, put a free land sign out front, right? Next person that goes by, they can have it. Just give it to them, right? Unfortunately, this is worth less than zero. You can't build your way out of it. I don't know why you bought it. And as I talk through those 8 elements there, they realized, oh my God, there were 3 fatal flaws they could understand in a half an hour conversation with me. And they're like, I wish I had known this up front. Can I sue my broker? Shouldn't they have known this? Well, brokers don't know this, right?
Oh.
They're not trained to know zoning and some of these things. So, anyways, long-winded answer. I mean, my goal is to, with ZATTSSUM or with feasibility, is to, avoid those mistakes and focus on the properties that will work for them.
It's funny as you're going through critical areas, topography, you're going through, was it going to pencil? I'm sitting here thinking, man, there's like probably 3 or 4 different properties in the past that I'm like, I knew it wasn't going to sell or it wasn't going to sell for what they wanted. But now I understand more about that. So I think even just that, you're telling me in this like 1 minute and people are talking to you for half an hour. I'm like, man, I have a lot of questions now. Lots of questions, lots of things. I'm like, darn it, I wish I would have known this before. So, how do you partner with, like, brokers and, like, when you're teaching, are you only teaching for UW or are you also doing, like, classes for, like, King County Realtors or anything like that? Because I think, like, there's a good sort of, like, synergy there.
Yes, and so I've done both. So I've been teaching on feasibility for a long time. So yes, I've
Mhm.
taught middle housing classes, accessory dwelling units, planning classes, continuing education for brokers. And I just actually, for years, I've been trying to create ZATTSUM as a class. I keep talking about it. I do a lot of talks to different real
Uh-huh.
estate offices or investment groups, and I say I'm going to create this into a 3-hour clock hour course because it does take time to learn how to use the permitted use table and zoning and design standards. So I actually did. I finally got my class approved at the state.
Okay.
I have not launched the first one yet. I will do that hopefully in the next couple months, and so there will be a evaluating land for development class that I will create called Feasibility Fundamentals, and so then people will be able to take it. You don't have to be a broker, but it'll be a 3-hour class to kind of do a deep dive into a lot of the elements that I may teach over 10 weeks in a UW development course, but boil down to 3 hours. So the goal is that a broker or someone would be able to kind of think through those 8 elements. And when you go on a listing appointment or you're looking at land, I mean, the ZATTSUM tool is just supposed to be a way of kind of giving you a roadmap to think through the property high level. Because I think if you can think of those things, you can help avoid a lot of the bad properties up front. So my class hopefully will teach people to do feasibility better so they don't have to hire me. A lot of people call me and I tell them right away, don't hire me. I mean, there's something wrong right away. I can tell you right away. So you don't need to go forward with the contract for feasibility. I will do it. I'm not going to say I won't, but I think it might be a waste of time, effort, and energy.
Yeah, I love that. And I also want to know more about that class when you launch that, because I'm thinking of like, as you're going through this, and we're in the same state, right? So I'm sitting here, I'm counting on my fingers. I'm like, I have 5 agents who need that class because they really want to get into land. Like they love land. I actually have a one of my clients who's in my annual mastermind. That's all he does. I mean, he just signed a commercial property. He's basically working with a commercial vendor or commercial seller right now to sell like 25 different properties up north in Bellingham. And so I'm like, I feel like that's the class he would need.
It is, and I love land. I love dirt. I love that I can go out and hike a
Yeah,
piece of property. And I used to go out and take my dog, a map, compass, and go hike, 100 acres of land that we had to pick out home site. But land is also could be considered work harder, not smarter.
correct.
So one office I hung my license at, the broker's like, "Hey, you're a top selling broker, but you are wasting your time doing land. I mean, land typically may sell for one third the value of a finished home."
Yeah,
Right. So, my average land deal may take me 3 to 4 times the amount of time to study the land, and they only close maybe, 40% of what a home would. So if I sell a house, I probably make 3 times as much for one third the time with a higher success rate. So people do have to know when they get into land, there can be some big home runs. I've done some big
yeah.
developments where you're selling a property and a builder's coming in and you just got to kind of get the land ready for the builder. Then they go to feasibility. But a lot of these onesie twosies individual lots helping a family sell a piece of property, there's a lot to look at. You have to kind of go through that ZATTSUM to figure out because they may want to list it for $1 million, right? They think the backyard can be turned into 4 or 6 home sites, but because there isn't access or there's something with, one of those elements there with utilities, you may say, the cost to do it is going to exceed the value of the land. So the finished land value is directly proportional to what it's going to cost to develop. So if it costs me, and there are certain properties, I can sell a finished lot for say $400,000 per lot when done, but it may cost me $450,000 per lot to get it there. So there
Interesting.
isn't really value in the backyard, at least at this time, in a certain market. That's why I'll get called the dream popper, right? I'm the dream poker, not the popper. I'm going to help you try and figure out why you should do something or hit pause before you do it. Go study this before making that decision and hiring a surveyor
Right.
and or for a broker to say this listed for $1 million, then it's sitting there for 8 months and the seller has unrealistic expectations about what their land can actually do.
I love that. One of the things that I really pride myself on, or I guess what I talked about was trying to change the industry and like the professionalism in our industry. And everything that you're saying right now really amplifies a level of professionalism that you have. And I think that, a lot of times, kind of like the real estate industry in general, we've gone through a lot as an industry. We go through a lot all the time. There's a lot of things like coming down on us all the time. And I think a lot of it is just because of the lack of professionalism, lack of education, lack of knowledge, lack of access to knowledge, which is why I like to do this podcast. 'Cause I didn't know any of this stuff that you're telling me. I'm like, wow. I feel like had I known you 8 years ago, I probably could have saved myself a lot of energy on a lot of things, right? And so, I just wanted to comment on that. It's not really a question, but it's more of a comment of like the professionalism that I think what you specifically bring to the industry is awesome.
Yeah, and I believe in lifelong learning. So I
Yeah.
attend class, I teach classes, and if I find someone else teaching that class, I will attend their classes.
Yeah.
I am always dropping in on, other people's classes. 'Cause I'm like, there's even a part of accessory dwelling units or building code or, market research. I never knew that tool existed, or I never thought about it that way. So I mean, again, I believe in lifelong learning, and there's a lot of good content, especially. I mean, I'm always watching YouTube on different things. I will teach on transactions. I've been doing it 30 years, but I'm like, oh, it's an interesting way to describe a deed, or just something simple that I know,
Yeah.
but yet I can give a new story and bring that to the classroom. And that's one thing I love teaching too. Like we have amazing professors at the University of Washington.
Mhm.
They're writing books, they're doing white papers on some very fascinating things, but at least our program too brings in a lot of affiliates, working professionals that are doing it day in and day out, appraisers and people doing valuations and myself doing land use to be able to instruct the students. But you
Right.
know I listen to your podcast, listening to others because people that are out there bringing new information that I can apply to my everyday work.
I love that, and, like, that kinda goes hand in hand with what I was saying this morning to one of my coaches is, like, I can hear something from someone, and it doesn't hit, or it does, but then someone else says the exact same thing in a different way, and it feels different, right? So I think it's really important as coaches, teachers, leaders to never stop learning because, you know I'm learning from you, but there's also going to be people who are kind of doing more of what I do that I'm still going to go and listen to and learn because how are they presenting it? What are they saying? Maybe there's something that they know that I don't that I need to research. So I just think it's important to bring that really what sets people apart as a professional versus a hobbyist.
Yeah.
So I love that. Okay, I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about your podcast because you have a podcast, and I remember you were saying that you just had on the former CEO or president of Amazon Global.
Yeah, the former vice president of
President.
Amazon Global Real
Okay.
Estate. Yes. So yeah, I mean, one going back to so when I was a grad student,
Mhm.
I didn't have time to do a lot of the competitions, and so they asked me to be the social media person, and I'm like, I'm the oldest guy in the department, right? You know, and so I right after I started, COVID happened, and they're like, because originally it's just we have a lot of great tours and things that we could go on, take a picture, put it on Facebook. Well, all that was gone. So then I just started interviewing students and faculty, and I guess I forgot to ask permission when I started, but yes, I started doing it. And so what I love is to be able to interview really fascinating people. So yes, John Trotler was the now retired, vice president of Amazon's global real estate. I mean, he could tell stories about doing the Spheres project,
Mhm.
doing, taking Amazon from its earlier days and its, how little real estate they had to what they have their global footprint now. I've had yesterday where another one was the CEO of Crew, which is, commercial real estate, for a women's, network. And so there's a lot of amazing people in the industry that love to share their story.
Yeah.
And so, I hope that again, my podcast gives people that platform to do so.
Yeah, and then that's why I like to do it too. I like to just hear other people's stories because when would I don't know if you and I would probably at some point may have crossed paths, but would it have been the same sort of vibe? Would it have been the same sort of opportunity to get just kind of like hear and learn from each other? Probably not. And that's I right there with you about why I enjoy doing this. I've had some fascinating people. I mean, you're one of them. I've had like founders of companies. I have just had the owner of a founder of a home search app that like they're on this big vision to like, be competitors with Zillow. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like it's so fascinating. Like never would have had that opportunity. So I love it. That's awesome. Um, okay, so your podcast is The Connection. Is that what it's called?
Real leaders in real estate.
Real Leaders in
So
Real Estate. Why did I think it was called The Connection? Where did that come
I don't
from?
know. I hope to connect people, but the
Well, there we
real leaders in real estate is what it's called. It's
go. Okay.
on YouTube,
Okay.
and so I actually will. I mean, one of my goals for 2026 is actually put it on to more of a podcast. I have like 50 interviews I've done, and so I should upload the truly podcast. But right now, it's
Mhm.
just on YouTube. And again, I love just being able to listen to it whenever I'm driving, if I'm, just, walking, whatever, that gives me a
Yeah.
chance to listen and catch up on content and new ideas that I otherwise would never sit down and take that
No,
time away from work to do it. But
no.
when I have that idle time, it's perfect time to catch it. And whether it's a small little bit or a long format, there's this, yeah, I love it.
Who's your like, do you have, like, your top 2 podcasts that you like to listen to?
Well, I would say one, I don't know, it's a podcast, but Andy Fitzsimmons for Realtors
Okay.
has one where she talks about, legal issues in Washington real
Yeah.
estate. Some of the things I know or changes in code.
Okay.
Another one, Bigger Pockets, like listening to, what they put out, because again, for investing, and sometimes I can bring those stories to the students, and that's
Mhm.
really what I'm trying to, capture too. I mean, I'll sit in the class sometimes at 8:30 or 9 in the morning, and I got 60 college students, and I got to make sure they're awake, and what story can I have learned or connect with them that's going to resonate with them, because things about building a global empire they may want sound good, but they may just want to know how to do their first real estate deal. How do I do that? Or
Yeah.
how am I going to go out and get my first job? Jeff, the market's kind of tough out there right now. We're going to graduate, what do I need to do to be better prepared this spring?
Yeah, that's awesome. I like to listen to Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett, and the reason why is have you listened to that one before?
I think I've listened to one or two, but I've just got lost. I need to go find it again.
Yeah, I like him because I think his guests are fascinating, fascinating. Like he's had some of the most fascinating guests I would have no clue existed unless I heard him on his podcast. But also, I think he's a really good interviewer. Like the way he asks questions and how he digs, it's just awesome. So that's one of my favorites. And then the second one, it kind of gets a toss up. I love Ed Milet because I always like a good, like motivational, like life goodness. But I also really like Brian Buffini. Because I think Brian Buffini, as far as real estate, he's hands down one of the best, knowledge bases in residential real estate out there. So I like to listen to him too.
Good,
Um,
good. And Dave Myers at Bigger Pockets, I want to give him a shout out. I heard him speak here a little bit ago, and it's just amazing to that he lives in Seattle and he's talking about different real estate, but he is probably one of my favorite out there, and the people can want to go check out that, and then Break Into CRE is another one on YouTube that I will direct students to. I can't remember the guy's name that has it, but he's got a lot of really good content, especially for people that want to go into commercial real estate.
Right, right. So are you're a broker, so a land broker. Do you work like mostly for individual homeowners or investors or commercial? Like just curious what your kind of niche is there.
Yeah, so I mean, I buy and sell homes just like any other broker, and that pays really good when you get a good home listing. But I've always focused more or focused on land as well because I knew it, and I would probably get bored if all I did all day was sell homes, right? Show and tour another home. I'm one of those people. We didn't have a working television in my house for like
Mhm.
7 years, and my kids are like, "Did we have a working television? What one time?" Yes, I just can't sit still. So I love land. I love to get out and hike it. And there's just less people that I think understand it.
Yeah,
And fewer people can help it. So I find myself pulled back in there, even if it's maybe not the best paying hour of my day to do land. Well, it's better than teaching. But no, I mean I split my time probably, 40% as a broker where it's doing, land or homes, and 40% as a land use consultant helping people figure out, again, highest and best use for a property, what zoning would allow, and how to develop it. I work with small developers and builders and a lot of individuals on their property to figure out going through the development process. And then 20% of my time is teaching. So actually, it's probably is like 120% because it's probably a 70-hour work week. But I love doing it.
yeah. I think that's the thing with anything, right? You find the thing that you love, and it's not really work. Isn't that what Jim Rohn said? You do what you love, and you're never really working a day in your life. Yeah. So, and I mean, I can see that you're super passionate about it. So, like, it's very clear. Um, okay, so most of my audience is likely residential real estate agents. I have some commercial in there. Um, but what advice would you give them if they were kind of considering, moving more into the land space, or even if you have some advice about buying or selling houses? You've been doing it for a while. So what advice would you give an agent who's really trying to scale to that next level in their business?
I heard this. I'm gonna take this quote. It was probably from Gary Keller in his book. I mean, work to learn before you work to earn. Right. If you look at I tell my students a lot of
Love
professions, like if you're a doctor, you've got to work for years before they're ever gonna let you go practice. We as real estate brokers, I mean, I had, you know, 23, 24, got my real estate license. I didn't really know anything about it. I mean, I passed the exam, but I could have been out there, helping people. Likewise, with your residential broker's license, you can go sell land. But what I would tell people is find a good mentor, work under them, share the deal. I mean, because you can expedite your knowledge by working underneath someone. So yeah, I'd find a good mentor and just volunteer and follow them around. I have some students ask me, can they be my mentor? I mean, my um, intern. And I'm like, I don't really have an intern, but I had a couple students come out with me and look at some land, and I'm out there on the road like, hey, stop traffic, and I'm pulling up a catch basin grate to look which way the the pipe goes under the ground from the property because that's very valuable
Mm.
information. And he thought I never would have thought of doing that in a million years. But rather than wait 2 weeks for a public records request, I just lifted up a catch basin grade in the road and could figure out right away. We don't have a drain coming from the house.
Mm.
We're, to the prop to this catch basin out here. We're gonna have to dig up into the road to do that. There's another reason we might not want to buy this property when the one down the street already has the utilities fully connected.
Yeah. Yeah. Work to learn before you work to earn. And that goes for anybody at any level, right? At any level. You're trying to go from being a brand newbie to being, the next level, like the six figures to the high six figures to the seven figures, whatever it is. That's a very good, like, scalable message. I love it. Love it. Okay, so what can my audience do for you? Because I mean, you've been here now for about half an hour. We've just you just dumped a bunch of knowledge, which I love, and I'm going to go back and listen to this again. But what can my audience do for you?
Well, I mean, so they can go check on the channel that I have. We have a lot of good content, and one of the things that I have on there, one of them is about land use feasibility, and so I'll share with you too if you want to share when I get the class out there for people to do it and attend. Because really, what I want them to do is learn how to do it, the first steps on their own, so they don't need to hire me. If they want to hire me, I'm always for hire. And so they can hire me to help them do land use feasibility and write a report for their property. So brokers, it helps brokers, right? Before you list a property, is there ability to subdivide or not? So you can price it right. Before brokers help someone buy a property, is this one we want to waste time on? So,
Mhm.
and I give a free 15-minute consultation over the phone. And that's where I get called the dream popper. I had 8 consultations yesterday and I talked 5 people out of hiring me because I could, or at least before you hire me, I can already identify a fatal flaw. So before you buy it or recommend to your buyer, you want to know this, right? This probably isn't going to work. Yeah, share I love to share my knowledge by giving away that 15 minutes as long as I can do so,
Okay.
and to help people to be better with their own clients.
I love that. And so we'll have your contact information in the notes below. So just take a look at the notes and get a hold of Jeff for a 15-minute call. Okay, Jeff, thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation. I am looking forward to, learning more from you, getting some of my people in your class, just helping everybody in the industry just have more professionalism and learn more and provide better service to the consumer.
Good. When I tell my students, when I told them that ZATTSUM, it's funny, I've heard more and more. I heard of a national home builder now using ZATTSUM to teach their interns.
Should
I
trademark that.
heard a student of mine like go to an interview with a company and they gave a property like, how would I analyze this? And went through ZATTSUM and he got a job. So I just tell my students jokingly, remember 10% off the top of any raise you get while using ZATTSUM should come back to me. But
Yes,
use
I
it
agree with that.
and be a better real estate broker, help our clients better, and have fun.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode. Jeff and I are super grateful to have you here, and I'll see you on the next episode.